right, so we sat down last week to start this podcast talking about the best piece of advice we've gotten all year, and we totally planned to do it all in one podcast, but I looked up at the clock. We were at 50 minutes and we still had 3 pages of advice to go, which was awesome because we had so many great conversations. If you haven't listened to last week, I highly encourage to go. We started off a little goofy, but we locked it in because the advice was so good. So we're just going to keep rolling on last year. We literally only made it to May before we got to an hour. So we'll pick up here, but Jamie McDonald was on the podcast. She was incredible. Her life story is wild. Like, her testimony was so powerful. But I love what she said. She said before college, she was talking with a homeless man, and I don't remember if the man said it or if it just came to her, but it said, no matter what happens to you, don't harden your heart. And that was really, really cool. So I'm curious, in y'all's life, has there been a moment that you've had to kind of overcome your heart being hardened? Because I know I certainly have in life. Anybody want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think that happens anytime that someone disappoints you or says something mean about you or whatever, like especially in a family or friends or spouse or, girlfriend or whatever situation. And you have to decide, am I going to forgive them or am I going to get over it, And I think there's always caveats. There's always, you need to set healthy boundaries and things. But I think there is, anytime you're faced with a disappointment or betrayal, you've got to decide, am I going to let this callous me, or am I going to continue to love this person or be friends with them or whatever?
Yep. I think about a lot of people going through hardening their heart towards the church because they've had a bad experience in the past. And I think, honestly, probably most people have had a bad experience in church at some point or another. And so it's that choice. Do you forgive the person, knowing that the church is built up of people who are imperfect people who serve a perfect God? So not getting your heart hardened to a whole thing because one person or one situation hurt you. For me specifically, you want to go? I didn't know if you were saying, hey, let me jump in here.
Just playing my fingers.
For me specifically, one thing that I have never shared, and I might stumble my way through sharing it, but you've watched me go through this. I feel like I went through a little period, this is vulnerable, of my heart being hardened towards things because I felt like people were using my name or my face for things, their thing. Maybe it was even to promote something or to sell tickets or for this or that or whatever it was. And I feel like I kind of got bitter in a sense towards that, where I felt like I wasn't valued for who I am or actually what I bring to an event. It was just my name will bring other people. So that's why they put my name out there. And I felt like I did get kind of sensitive about that. And it actually even kind of made me question things, because I was are people inviting me to places because I'm really anointed to preach and they actually love what I'm bringing to the table? Or am I just invited because my last name's Robertson or because, that? And I had to get down to the truth and be okay, even if people are doing it for bad intention, I'm still going to show up with a pure heart. I'm still going to show up and believe that God gave me a word, and this word is for somebody in this room. And I think about kind of in a different context, but you know how Paul says okay, some people preach out of envy, some people preach out of rivalry, but as long as Jesus is preached, and it's kind of okay, some people might use my name for ill intention or not ill intention, but just to get something. Some people might put my face out there for whatever, but I know why I do what I do, and that's to preach Jesus. And I know the value I bring is not, just to sell a ticket. I know the value I bring is to hopefully impact someone's life with the message of Jesus. And so for me, not hardening my heart in that case scenario, it looks even if they're doing that, that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that I have to show up and just be the person that whatever. I can show up and still have a pure heart. And I feel like that's something that I've had to really kind of wrestle with. And I went through a little period where that was really hurtful to me. And then I had to decide it's okay.
That's really good.
That's really good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. That was good to share.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, it's honestly something I think about probably daily. I think that's honestly one of my most like common prayers is, remove this heart of stone to give me a heart of flesh, whether it's, with something I can struggle with cynicism or getting frustrated at a situation or lack of patience or those kind of things. And I think it's like King David, it's like, purify my heart, a broken and contrite heart you will not despise. And even Jesus teaching you out of the heart, and the heart's the wellspring of life. So I do think there's a process to hardening your heart over a course of time. You look at Pharaoh in Exodus, but I also think that it can be a daily thing too. Of like, we're humans, we sin, we're not perfect. Jesus is sanctifying us, but I do think that a daily, your heart can be hardened daily, and I think just constantly being aware of that and knowing that you can pray for God to remove that heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. So I think that's something for me that I pray a lot of times, and it happens to be a homeless man situation, and I'm a big proponent of, if I have something with me and it doesn't seem like too sketchy of a situation, I always try to give something to a homeless person, just because, I don't know, I think for me it's always a great litmus test of just, associating with the lowly. Romans 12 talks about, associating with people of lower position. And I think for me, homeless people's always like, if I have something, because it's, I don't know what they're going to go do with the money or what they're going to go do with whatever I give them. But for me, if I'm going to be faithful and, just with Jesus, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but
I was going to say, you want to, in that situation, you don't want to harden your heart against them. You want to try to have empathy with them. You want to say like, oh, we're equals in this situation. Like, what if I was in that position where I'm begging for money on the side of the road? You want to have empathy with them instead of hardening your heart and saying, I'm just not going to care.
Because the easier thing to do is like scoff at it.
Yeah.
And the harder thing to do is like actually go out of your way and approach them and give them something. So I think that's the thing too. It's like, even if there's a situation like that and the person's not necessarily even asking you for money or asking you for something, I think you going out of your way to show them kindness goes a long way. So for me, I'm a big proponent of
this. Actually makes me think of going back, and I wasn't going to bring this one up, but it's perfect for this. Kristian Stanfill's best piece of advice was 2 Chronicles 16:9, and it says, "The eyes of the Lord, they range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him." And it's really cool to think about, like, the eyes of the Lord, like, searching the earth for like whose heart is committed to me, and even David is a good example of why God anointed David as king. He said, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. That's what Samuel said whenever he was going to, Jesse's boys to figure out who's going to be the king. He was looking at the heart, and it was like the heart of the shepherd in the field. And so I think that's why it's so important to pray those prayers, like purify my heart. Don't let my heart get bitter. Don't let my heart get hard. Even if they give me a reason for it, like purify my heart, because I don't want to start showing up and being, bitter towards people, or I don't want to start showing up and doubting myself. I don't want to look at a homeless man and have lost so much empathy because I've reasoned my way out of it. Like God's looking for the heart. And those are the people He's calling, is like those who have a pure heart. And so I love that. Bella, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. I think for me personally, I think a lot of people can relate to this, but anyone who's walked through a season of infertility, it can feel impossible at times not to harden your heart. But I think to that verse, like, God looks at your heart, and I think that He's looking for people who are committed to Him. And I think that in seasons of waiting or confusion or anything like that, I think that it can feel impossible to not harden your heart. But I think if you just trust in God, and like, I don't have the perfect advice for this because it really feels impossible at times. But I think you put your faith in God, you put your trust in God, and you fully believe that He's holding your hand and He's holding you through the whole journey, and that He will fulfill His promise one day in one way or another. And I think that, I think that if anyone's dealing with that right now, I'm so sorry. And I think that I have a lot of compassion. I think that it's really easy to harden your heart. So like, don't feel ashamed if you're there right now. But I think that you can move past that, even if your prayer isn't answered. By just trusting in God.
I don't know like the theology behind this necessarily. I've heard other people say some really good points about this, and I certainly don't want it to confuse anyone by bringing it up. But it makes me think of the fear of hardening your heart is like Pharaoh. It says like God hardened his heart. Like he was like not in any way submitting to the will of God in the sense of like just letting the people go, and look at all the bad things that happened. You know, look at like what was happening to the people, look at the plagues of this, like could have been avoided from a softened heart, like could have been avoided from his heart. And I know that's confusing to say, well, why did God harden his heart? And I've heard people break that down. It's a good study, and I don't think the way you read it at first is actually what it's meaning. Someone was talking about it, how like if you put, I think it was like water on wax, like it hardens, but if you put like water and clay, like it's molded, and how like it's not that you're doing something different. It's just that one's willing to be molded and one is like going to harden. And so like God gives the opportunity for you to like be molded or like for you to harden. And so like if he's pouring something over you, you're in a life situation, it's like, okay, God, am I going to allow you to mold me like the potter's hands, or am I going to get stiff and hard in this situation? And in the Pharaoh situation, like he was hard towards it, like unwilling to change how he was leading Egypt and let God lead through him. And so like all of that stuff had to happen. And so that's like definitely something in the Bible to be aware of when you're seeing like a hardened heart and that's the outcome. It's like, okay, Lord, what's the outcome of a pure heart? Well, look at David, look at, different things in the Bible that talks about having a pure heart.
It's Romans 1, it's God giving you up to your desires. So there's a process of, you hardening your own heart, and then ultimately God just gives you over to your desires, which and it leads to your destruction.
Okay, friends, can we just admit it? Finding the perfect holiday gift is hard. It has to be personal, but not weird, thoughtful, but not over the top, and somehow still be fun and affordable. And that's why I'm obsessed with Aura frames. It is truly the easiest gift to give, and it works for literally anyone on your list. If you're like me, you want to give something meaningful, but also something that doesn't require a whole Pinterest board to pull together. With Aura, you can just pick your favorite photos, drop them in the app, and boom, instant gift magic. You can even add a message before it arrives, so it shows up already very special, and you can keep adding photos all year long, so it is really the gift that keeps on giving. Plus, every frame comes in a gorgeous premium gift box with no price tag. It's already beautiful and intentional, no wrapping needed, which is a lifesaver for me during a busy holiday season. Giving an Aura frame just makes shopping easier. One gift, tons of memories, and zero stress. I have given the Aura frame to a couple of people now in my life because it's just amazing. My aunt has it, my grandma has it, my mother-in-law has it. They're just the best gift. And also not even just for like a mom, but even just a friend. I mean, we have this in our office, and it's so fun for all the girls in our office to upload different pictures from the years. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code WOA at checkout. Again, that's Aura Frames, AURAFrames.com with the promo code WOA. This deal is exclusive to our listeners, and frames do sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout, please. Terms and conditions apply.
I don't know exactly what it's meaning when it says when you're talking about like don't harden your heart. But I do think that sometimes, especially in this season that I'm walking through, or seasons similar, I think that hardening your heart can look like just always putting on a strong face and not allowing yourself to be sensitive about what you're going through. And I think that through years of waiting, I think that there can be times where you're just like, I don't care. I'm not talking about it. I don't care. I'm over it. Like, but I think that you can allow yourself to be sensitive about the situation, and you can allow yourself to like feel the emotions. And I think in those moments of like raw emotion is when you really will see your need for God. And so I think that allowing yourself, like Kristian said, to like or Kristian called out that Bible verse that says like give me a heart of flesh. I think that in seasons where you feel like I just don't even want to deal with this anymore, like I just want to like turn it off and turn away from it, I think that you can pray that God would give you that heart of flesh and like be sensitive and like be emotional, because it is like such a hard journey. And like in those moments of emotion is when God will truly meet you there. Like he's so near to the brokenhearted. And I think that in times where you can come face to face with that. And that doesn't mean always like in front of everyone or with everyone, but like with your closest people, like allow yourself to be soft in that way.
So
that's exactly how I take it. I think that was so well said.
I agree. I totally agree. That's beautiful. Next episode we're talking about is remembering Papaw Phil, which was actually the biggest podcast episode of the year for great reason. We had such good conversation honoring Papaw Phil in his life. Second biggest was Bella sharing her story on infertility. And so if you haven't listened to those two, they were two of the top because there was so much wisdom and talk about empathy and vulnerability and having a heart of flesh in a moment. We were talking about Papaw Phil right after he passed away. You were talking about infertility, like in a time where you were like, I don't really know all the words to share. You didn't feel ready for that podcast, but you did it. And so those are just like beautiful moments of having hearts of flesh. But one of the things that, well, John, like you had really good advice in this. I love how you shared Papaw Phil's advice. Like if it's good enough for the duck blind, like then it's got to just be good enough and not kind of like overanalyzing things. But I want to bring up what Reed said because he brought up Papaw Phil's verse, First Thessalonians. Is it 4:11? I think it is. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but it's a verse about making it your ambition to live a quiet life. And that has been some of the best advice I've gotten all year from Papaw Phil after he passed away, going back and watching videos that he did, constantly saying that verse. And I have pondered that for the past few months. Like, what does it look like to make it your ambition to live a quiet life and still a life of influence? That's just like an amazing thought to me that I've probably talked about too much on the podcast to even go into it again. But I love that. I was very impacted by that verse that Papaw Phil.
Because what happens when you follow the verse up?
Well, the verse says and what's been speaking to me is how it says, make it your ambition to live a quiet life. And then it says, work with your hands, all this stuff. And then it says, and you will gain the respect of the outside world and you won't be dependent on anyone. And I'm like, that is so contrary to how the world lives. Like if we think we're going to gain the respect of the outside world, the last thing we think to do that is to live a quiet life. Like we think like, no, we got to, speaking of algorithm, which we got to get on the algorithm, we got to put ourselves out there, we got to build this, we got to do this, we got to figure out a marketing strategy, like we got to go for it. And we're also like going to depend on so many things. Like it's going to depend on if I get the book deal, it's going to depend on if that person notices me, it's going to depend on if I get this many followers. And that's like the opposite of what that verse is saying. Saying, no, make it your ambition to live a quiet life. Work with your hands. Don't be dependent on anyone. And then you will gain the respect of the outsiders because they're going to look at your life and be like, how'd you do that? And when I think about Papaw Phil, a man who lived at the end of the river in a $27,000 house who duck hunted every single day. And if he wasn't duck hunting, he was building duck blinds and he was working with his hands and he was living such a quiet life. Yet when he passed away, millions of people were impacted and talking about it. Like, what a picture of staying true to that verse. And also even beyond that kind of a lesson in the lesson is Papaw Phil had a verse he read that he thought about so much and it impacted the way he lived his daily life. You know, like he had First Thessalonians on his mind when he went out in the duck blind and was like building something with his hands and trusting that God was going to use him for the kingdom when he seemed to be in a very remote place. Yet anybody that came down there got the option to be baptized or was baptized by him because of the impact of his life. And so there was just so many layers to that being good advice to me. It was like someone really practicing what they preach, someone living out, someone reading the word, doing the word. And also I just never heard that verse. Like I'm sure I've read it. I've read the Bible, but it didn't stick out to me like it stuck out to him. And now it does.
Yeah, that I've always kind of struggled with that idea of living a quiet life in that verse because we don't live quiet lives, you know, comparative to other people, you know, where most of what we're doing is out there and it's loud and, you know, there's that, there's good aspects of that. Like we want to share a message. I mean, I think for Papaw Phil, It was the idea that he never strive for it. And he never wanted the fame for the fame itself. Like he lived his life exactly how he wanted to. The message that he was speaking, he taught every Sunday at his small group at church, 30 people. And, he'd do that on Sundays. And then on the weekdays, he would be on the podcast, or he would be on, the top talk shows in the nation. But it wasn't that, to him, he didn't care whether it was on national news or whether it was one person in his house. He was going to share the same message and do the thing. He didn't strive for that.
That's what it is.
There's accolades.
That's what it is. Because it's like think about Psalms 127, unless the Lord builds a house, the laborer labors in vain. And it's like, you work with your hands and you work for the Lord. And if the Lord builds the house, that, then step into it. It's like when people say, I want to do what you do. And I say, what aspect? And they're, I want to do conferences, I want to do podcasts. It's like, that's great. And that's beautiful to have that ambition that maybe one day what it would turn into a conference. But it doesn't start as a conference. It starts with a Bible study. It starts with sharing the word. It starts with that. And if the Lord builds the stage, and if the Lord sets up the microphone. But I always think, one of my favorite stories to think about, when we went to Israel, this is what impacted me the most. When we sat on that mount, where the Mount of Beatitudes, where Jesus preached that message on the Sermon on the Mount, and I just got to thinking, because we do so many events, I'm like, no one set up that event. There's thousands of people that came to listen to Jesus preach. No one set up the event. There's no sound equipment. There's no microphone. There's no, okay, you're going to go on stage at this time and this give you the microphone and sound check and you got 30 minutes to talk. No, Jesus came, people gathered, and Jesus spoke, and they heard. And the way that the mount is actually shaped, it's wild, because it amplifies sound by the shape of it. So remember how people were down at the bottom and you could actually hear them talk? And I just felt like the Lord told me in that moment, if I want a message to be heard, it will be heard. If I want a message to go out, it's going to go out, and nothing's going to be able to stop it. So whether you have a microphone or you have a stage or you have the platform, you're not dependent on somebody to get my message out. I'm going to get the message out. And when the wind of God is on it, the wind of God is on it. And that's been something that I've really taken, because it's like, I'm going to do what I can. I'll write the message. I'll show up in the morning. It's like Ecclesiastes 11, sow your seed in the morning. Don't be idle with your hands in the evening. It's not up to me how God uses it. It's up to me to be obedient to what he gave me to do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Christmas shopping for a second, because the struggle is real. I'm out here trying to find gifts for everybody, teachers, family, neighbors, all the things. And it feels like every store is packed and every cart is overflowing. And when you finally do find a good deal, it is like a Christmas miracle. So when AG1 rolled out their best offer ever, I was like, okay, here's a win for everyone. And it actually makes sense during the season, because not only does your health deserve a great deal, but AG1 makes an awesome gift for anyone in your life who needs a little boost. And one thing that's a win for me is because my father-in-law drinks AG1 every day. I know what I am putting in his gift box. AG1 is a daily health drink mix that combines multivitamins, pre and probiotics, and antioxidants. AG1 is truly the MVP when it comes to being so simple and being so healthy when you have such a crazy life and just need something to help you keep going in the right direction. And especially this time of year, like I said, you're eating a little bit differently. There's all kinds of options around you. You're also around so many people. You're trying to keep that immune system up. AG1 fills in all those nutrition gaps when your routine kind of, is going haywire a little bit. AG1 has their best offer ever. Don't miss this. If you head on over to drinkag1.com/whoa, you're going to get a lot of things. You'll get the welcome kit, a morning person hat, a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2, an AG1 flavor sampler pack, and you'll also get their new sleep supplement, AGZ, for free, which is a game changer for your nightly routine. That's drinkag1.com/whoa for $126 and free gifts for new subscribers.
But I think to circle back a little bit on, when we first started talking about this, I think that this verse is so well aligned with the conversation we were talking about earlier with social media. And I think that a lot of times, I feel like a few years ago, I had this big epiphany, and it sounds so simple, but I just had this big epiphany that everything that God tells us in the Bible, all the rules, all the laws, all the commandments, like they're all God being kind to us, and really and truly he sets these in place for us to live a better life, and he wants us to live the best life and the most abundant life we can. And when we follow his commandments, that is how we live such an abundant life. And so a few years ago, I feel like I really had that epiphany, like, wow, like none of these rules are just made up for no reason. They're all for us to live a better life. And I feel like I've really seen the fruit of that verse exactly in my life. Not that when I decided I wanted to log off social media, I was thinking about that verse in my head or anything like that. But I think that through that, I've seen so much, like I've just felt so much more confident and happier, and I've heard God's voice so much more. And not that you can't if you are on social media by any means, but for me personally, logging off, stepping back, living a quieter life has had so much fruit in my life and been so good for me. That verse, even though it wasn't my intention at the time, knowing that God said that just tells me like, wow, like that's so true. Like when you live like that, you do live a more fruitful life. So,
and there's certain scenarios where, again, everyone's quiet life is going to look different.
Yep.
You might look at my life and be like, doesn't look quiet, but they're like right now I'm writing a book. Okay, there's so many hours going into this that no one's seeing and that no one needs to see. That's like my quiet time with the Lord, and that's the time I'm working with my hands and I'm doing what God's called me to do. And again, it's like, I don't need to be dependent on anyone, so I'm not going to say, okay, this book has to come out at this time if it's going to hit, and it's got to come out, and the publishers have to do X, Y, and Z, and I got to get these interviews, and it's like, no, I have to write the book. I got to write what the Lord puts on my heart. I got to listen for the right words to say, and then when the time comes, if the Lord sends it out, like, it'll gain the respect of the outside world, you know? And so I think it's like situation by situation, parenting my kids. No one's seeing this moment. This is not about people seeing it. This is about me and the kids, you know? This is about what God's doing in our life right now. And then maybe people can learn from the way that I'm doing this. Maybe they don't. Maybe the Lord wants to show it. Maybe he doesn't, you know? And so that's it. It's not, like you said, Julie, it's not like he didn't want fame for the sake of fame. Fame came and he used it, but he was doing it on Sunday morning anyways. The next advice as we continue down, really good, kind of similar, I think, what we just talked about. We don't have to land on this or even talk about it. I just wanted to bring it up. This was whenever Kristian Mayo was on, which was so fun to have them on because I have loved their Instagram videos from afar for a long time. I love their dances. And I love what Meredith said. She said, if it doesn't work out, you'll just come home and do something else. What's the worst thing that can happen? It all falls apart and you just do something else. And she said that in reference to where she was really wrestling with if she should move to New York or LA. Like, where should I go? And this is such a crippling decision for so many people. Where should I go to college? What should I do? Should I do this or should I do that? Should I take this job? Should I take that job? And I love how she just kind of like took the pressure off and was like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You move there, you don't like it, you move back. And I was just talking to a mom the other day who was like very much so in that struggle of, should I homeschool my kid? Should I send my kid to school? And I said, look, send him to school. And if you don't like it, homeschool him. And if it's not going good, put him in school. Like, it's not like you're making a decision right now while they're in first grade that you have to stick with until they graduate high school. You can make a decision halfway through first grade and say, never mind, I think I want to change, you know? And it's like knowing you have the freedom in your life to take authority of your life, you know? Like, God gave you free will. God gave you the ability to make decisions. And so I think that is like a beautiful thing. I think so many times we're like, well, I just want to do the will of God. And I think the will of God is a little bit more broad than like this or that most of the time. It's like, okay, Lord, I'm going to go to New York. That's where I feel, you know, I know you're going to be with me here or there. I said it to someone the other night like this. They were wondering if they should go just on this small little trip. And she was like, I just don't know where God would want me to be. And she was like, should I be there? Should I be here? And I said, I just want to give you the freedom to know God's going to be with you, whether you're here or you're there. He's with you and you're coming. He's with you and you're going. It's not like you're going against the will of God to go on this trip, to go to this concert, or be home that one night with your kids. Like, sometimes God's really specific. Sometimes we talked about peace in the last episode. If you don't have peace, don't do it. But I think for the majority, we do overthink. Like, is this the wrong decision? And I'm like, you're not going to make the wrong decision. Let the Lord lead you. And if he's leading you a different direction, go the other direction, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that, like, I feel like young people really always feel like they have to, you know, commit to something and stick with it. And I've been guilty of that before too, especially when it comes to school and different things like that. But I think that even seeing other people do something and always doing it, you started LO when you were so young and like stuck with it and have been doing it for what, 10 years now?
Plus, now I guess I wrote Live Original when I was like 15 and I'm
That's
28, so
crazy.
13 years.
And like John Luke, you've had few career changes. I feel like for me, I was doing social media. One day I was like, oh, I just wasn't wanting to do it anymore. And Mom was like, well, you can come help out at Duck Commander. And I was like, okay, I'll do that for a little bit, and just never thought that this would be something that I would do. But I'm so glad that I wasn't so stuck in my way that I wouldn't try something new. I think that a lot of young people feel like, oh, I have to do what I started, and I have to continue to do what I do, especially when you have a college degree and that's what it's for, and you feel like you have to do that. But our dad always talks about, like, in his 20s, he was a camp director. In his 30s, he came to Duck Commander. In his 40s, Duck Dynasty started. And, like, in his 50s, now he's doing so many speaking things. And, like, his life has changed so much. He's had career changes almost every decade and probably more in between that. And I think just don't be scared of that. Like, you can always change your path and do something different. And John Luke, you are a good testament of that, I think.
Yeah, I've had multiple career changes. Whenever I was in Bella's role and I hated it, and then Bella wanted to do my job, that was a good choice on both of our parts. No, I heard
Mom actually had to go before us and make that decision because you were not liking your job and I was not liking my job. And Mom was like, I think we should do a switch here.
Mom always says, know your kids. Each of them are individuals.
It was a good switch. Yeah. No, I heard a piece of advice recently, and it was, don't let a single decision define you. And because that's
good.
Sometimes you can make the wrong decision. And I think that goes along with her advice of, if you make a bad decision, you can make another decision that's better.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to live with the consequences of your actions, and you have to let the consequences play out as they do, but you can turn your life into a new direction.
Yep.
You can move. You can just make the next right decision.
That's so true. Jenny Allen gave me some really good advice. I called her after I had Kit, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back into it again, because I'm like, now I'm just loving being a mom and being at home, and like, you know, I'm struggling. Like, should I keep saying yes to speaking events? Should I not right now? Like, just kind of getting her wisdom on that. And she said, you know, this is going to be a balance you're going to carry for the rest of your life, you know, and it's not just ministry, it's just motherhood and any job you have. Like, you're going to want to just be home, but then also maybe you have something specific you feel God called you to, or you actually have to go back to work for practical financial reasons. Like, there's so many reasons why you have to carry the tension and the balance of like, I want to do this, but I need to be here too. And she said, you know, Sadie, she said, just give yourself the freedom. She's like, you're going to say yes to too many things sometimes. And you're going to say no to too many things sometimes. You're probably really going to be like right in the balance of like, oh man, this year I crushed it. Like, the calendar was exactly how I wanted it. She said, you might say yes to a tour and you go on it, and halfway through you go, oh man, I should not have done this. That doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It just means you're tired, and now do something different next time. Take a few, you know, weeks off, whatever that looks like. And it is true. Like, you got to live, Miss Tara says to us, our counselor, like, live in the ebb and flow, like get in the ebb and flow and be comfortable and confident in like the ebb and flow of life, that like, it's okay to say yes. Sometimes it's okay to say no. Sometimes it's okay to be here. It's okay to be there. Like, just give yourself the freedom that, one wrong decision or good decision doesn't define your whole life. Let's be real, fam. Most of us don't wash our sheets as often as we probably should, but here's the thing. Traditional sheets need to be washed more often because they can hold more bacteria than a toilet seat. Okay, disgusting, right? Well, that is why I want to tell you about Miracle Made. Their silver-infused fabrics fights bacteria and keeps your sheets cleaner and fresher for up to 3 times longer. And right now, with a newborn in the house, that is a lifesaver. Between sleepless nights and extra laundry loads, having sheets that stay fresh and softer longer is just everything. Their NASA-inspired fabric also helps regulate your body temperature, keeping you cool when it's hot and cozy when it's cold. They are so soft and luxurious and come at a price that won't break the bank. Plus, cleaner sheets means clearer skin and fewer wash days, so yes, please to all of that. We actually switched to Miracle Made sheets a while ago. I want to say like 4 years ago, and we have never looked back. In fact, we've added more Miracle sheets to our house because everybody should have these. They're amazing. And you can upgrade your sleep too, or give the gift of better rest to someone else. Go to trymiracle.com/woe to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40% off, and when you use the promo code WOE, you'll get an extra 20% off, plus free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/woe with the code WOE at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode.
And I think it can be scary sometimes to like make a decision because you're like, what if I can't go back to what I liked before, or what I did before? And that's like real. I mean, Mom just gave me the same advice because it's a long story, but we're in a process of moving right now. And there was like so many times where I'm like, what if we move and then we want to go back to our old house? Like, what if we want to go back? And Mom was like, well, like we've moved, you've moved, I've moved twice. Like when we were kids, we moved, and Mom was like, we've moved so many times, and like, there's something better for you on the other side. And like, it's not, even though you love your house and you love the memories that you've made there, you'll make new memories at your next place, and you'll love your next house too. And you'll love the next
like
place.
John Luke said, you can move back.
Yeah.
In y'all's case scenario,
We
could move back.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's the
story.
In life,
I know, but I'm just
Okay,
saying,
that's the decision.
in general, for
In
most
life,
people, you can't move back to your old house.
yes.
I
And what I'm
think
saying is, I loved the memories at my house. I love my house, but we're going to make new memories and we're going to have new experiences and love that too.
but sometimes in life,
Hold on, Sid.
sometimes in life, I think it is the hardest decision when you actually do have the option to go back, because it's
good.
like it's like the Israelites. Whenever they finally got out of Egypt, they finally are no longer slaves. And what did they want to do when it got uncomfortable? I want to go back. And even though it wasn't what was best for them, it was what was comfortable to them. And so sometimes in life, it's actually really hard when you have the option of going back to what was comfortable, but you need to keep moving forward. And so it's like, and I want to talk about this when it comes to peace, because we keep saying like where you have peace. And actually the last piece of advice I wanted to bring up is from Baylee, how do you say her last name? Christophel? And I love what she said. If you put your peace in people, they have the power to take it away. If you put your peace in anything of this world, then whatever it is, it has the power to take it away. It must be rooted in your foundation in Christ. And I think we've been talking about peace a lot. Like, do I have peace to do this? Do I not have peace? I remember when I first started hanging out with people who used that term a lot, like, do you have peace? I wasn't used to that. Like, we didn't really grow up in our family, even though we were believers and followed God and went to church on Sunday. That wasn't like our vocabulary. Like, do you have peace? And that, I feel like, is so ingrained in our vocabulary now. Peace doesn't always mean peace really actually means like you don't have fear or like everything's comfortable. I think when you think of peace, sometimes you think like that means no fear. That means everything's working out comfortable. It's like this deep inner sense of knowing, even though it's hard, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Even though it's a change and a transition, I know I'm supposed to go. It's like a confidence in the midst of chaos. It's going, I probably should be really afraid of this, but I still feel a leaning towards it. And I know that God's going to give me the faith or the strength to keep going in this. Or I know God's going to give me a joy that's a strength that doesn't make sense in a situation I shouldn't have, And so I feel like it's like an inner confidence and an inner assurance that that's where you're supposed to be, even if the circumstances don't seem to make sense for that. And so that's why, like, the Israelites, they're like, I want to go back to when it's comfortable. But there's like a deep assurance in knowing I got to keep moving forward because there is a promised land. It's just going to take me a minute to get there, Yeah.
And I think for anyone who like is struggling with that idea of like, what is that peace? I think that as a Christian, I recently had a situation where I had a really big decision to make, and I felt so strongly that I knew exactly what decision, even though months before I really didn't know what the decision was. Just one day I felt it, like I just know what to do. And it was almost easy for me to think in my head at first, this kind of, I guess, secular way of saying it, like I just like am listening to my gut, and like my gut is telling me, but it's not your gut. It's the Holy Spirit. And I think that I had that realization a few months ago. I was having this situation. I felt so strongly. I knew what decision to make, and I was telling my friends about it. And it was so quick for me to just be like, I just had a gut feeling. And it's not a gut feeling if you're a Christian. Like if you're a Christian and you trust in God, like that's the Holy Spirit giving you peace, and that's what peace is. So if you've ever felt like you have a gut feeling about something, or you're listening to your gut or something like that, I think that's what we're talking about.
Yes. I saw this meme this past week, and it was saying the trust your gut, and it was like trust your gut, and then it was this person that was like, oh, the same gut that like I was like blowing up the bathroom all morning. Like when you're in the hospital.
Gut. Oh, I saw that before. It's like the same gut that can't handle dairy.
Yeah. It was like, oh, just trust your gut. It's like I'm in the bathroom, like with my bowels all messed up. I'm not trusting my gut.
I can't put that much trust in my gut for sure.
You really can't.
I just told them that I started drinking some coffee recently, because like I go through times where I drink coffee. I go through times where I don't drink coffee.
I'm pulling over on the side of the road.
I can't, like, I'm living life on the edge on drinking coffee because my gut cannot handle things like that.
Like me with pizza.
I know, it just, how can that gut decide my decisions in my life?
A gut that can't eat a piece of pizza.
That gut cannot tell me what to do.
Yeah, don't trust your gut.
To back it up with some theology, and theology is simply talking about the Word of God. It's not something crazy. It's just talking about the Word of God. It says the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace. Peace is a fruit of who God is. So it is a characteristic of God. So when you have peace, that's God telling you, this is the right decision. This is where you're supposed to be. I'm with you in this moment, you know? And again, like you think about the stories in the Bible where God told them to be. Oh, one of my favorite examples of this, after Jesus is baptized, it says he's led by the Spirit to the wilderness to be tempted. Now, that's crazy, because you might look at that and go, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm being tempted by Satan. I'm in the wilderness. But it says led by the Spirit. And the whole time Jesus was there, he remained steady. He fasted. He made it the whole time. He had a clear mind. I assume he had perfect peace because he's God. And he also
That's good.
Quoted scripture throughout the whole thing. So it can look like a bad situation. And that doesn't mean that you made the wrong decision. God still could have led you there. And if you have peace, then you have God. And if you don't have peace, then ask God where he is and ask God to help you through that. I will say, because we're through the advice, one example of this from recently. So people have been asking me so often, like, share your birth story with Kit, share your birth story with Kit. And I haven't shared my birth story with Kit because I've been discerning, like, I don't want to share my story and it be like someone hear it with the wrong ears and someone hear it with fear, you know, because people have said after I shared my birth story with Honey, a lot of people have been like so thankful for it. And that's why people keep asking me to share my birth story, because they love my past too. But some people have said like, oh my gosh, your birth story was, Honey, like really scared me. And I'm like, oh, I would never want to scare anyone or make them feel fear going into labor. Is labor hard? Yes, it's intense. It's wild. It's crazy. But at the same time, like, just how you said God's near to the brokenhearted, like God's with you in every scenario. So when you hear someone else's story and you think, I could never do that, well, you also don't know the feeling that it feels like when God's with you in it. So it's like, yeah, it might seem impossible to you, but that wasn't your story. And so don't fear that that's going to happen to you because it happened to me. And if it did happen to you, you're going to be okay. And actually someone was like, I was so scared after I heard that I was about to have a baby. And I was like, what if that happens to me? And she was like, and then it did happen to me. And guess what? She got through it, you know? And so it's like, that's why I haven't really shared my story with Kit, because I didn't want it to like bring fear to anybody. But this was like a true story of having a peace about something, because I was making a decision on an induction day because I was having a C-section. And the choice to decide was freaking me out. Like, I don't want to have to like choose what day it is. I would rather it just be spontaneous. However, that's just not the way our situation was unfolding. Like, it was going to be a choice that I was going to have to decide, this is the day we're going to have the C-section. And because my doctor was going to be out of town for a week, it felt like a big decision. Like, what if she comes too early? What if she comes too late? And I'm deciding between like this week difference. And so I prayed about it, and me and Kristian both prayed about it. I was like, God, give us a peace to know when she's supposed to come. You know when her birthday is. You have known her name. You have, as you've been forming her and knitting her together in my womb, and like, just give me the right call on that. And one day I felt a peace. And I texted our doctor, how's this feel to you? He said, let's do it. And we went in, and I was able to have Kit, and it was actually the perfect time. And I won't share all the details to that, because it was a perfect time, because she actually did have something requiring her to come. But I don't want anybody to hear that and go, well, I need to schedule my induction for today, because what if my baby has something wrong with him? And what if I didn't catch it because I made the wrong decision? Because as parents, we think like that. As moms, like, you overthink that.
Yeah.
But I say all this to say, you can't find your peace through someone else's story, by someone else's decision. You have to find your peace by the Spirit of God speaking to you. That's why when we talked about Pete Richardson's advice in the first episode, he says, it is a jungle out here, but if you learn to discern the voice of your Father, you will be able to navigate anything in the jungle. And then he says, this gave him the gift of inquiring of God and discerning the voice of God. And the gift was going on a walk and asking God, what do you want me to do? And so in my life, I'm responsible for finding my peace through saying, God, what do you want me to do? What's your timing on this situation? Where do you want me to move? Where do you want me to go? God, okay, I'm not hearing you fully. Is it okay if I move to New York? No checks? Go to New York. God, if it's not, send me back. I always say, if it's your will, give me green lights. If it's not, give me red lights. Even when we travel places. If it's not your will, would we not even be able to get on the plane? And then guess what? When all airports go crazy and, TSA workers don't show up, you can't get mad and say, oh, traveling's the worst. You just have to go, thank you, God. You gave me a red light on that one. And so hopefully that's helpful when discerning peace and discerning how to hear the voice of the Lord, because that's a tricky thing to explain to someone.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it makes me think about, too, like, you just never know why things happen the way that they do sometimes. And I think that in our journey of infertility, there's times, like you said, where you can overthink, like, did I do something? Is this why? Or did I do that? Or is something wrong with me? Is something wrong with you? I don't know. What was it? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? And a lot of times with infertility, you just never know why it is the way it is. And so when you were talking about Jesus going into the wilderness, I was thinking about that and how, like, we'll never know why our story is the way it is. But I think that maybe the Spirit is leading us through a journey so that we could grow in ways that we never would without this. And maybe that's the case, and maybe it's not. But I mean, I find comfort in believing that, and that the Holy Spirit has a plan, and God has a plan, and that there's a reason why we're going through this, and it's for us to grow, and we've grown so much this journey. So I think that, like you said, you never know why things happen the way they do, but sometimes if there's no answers, sometimes that's the answer that
That's true.
God has a plan, and even though that seems like God has what's the plan, but God has a plan is the plan,
That's so true. And that verse, like, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. I think about that a lot when it comes to hearing God answer. It's like, just know that, like, a wait is not useless. It's purposeful. It renews strength, actually, and trust and faithfulness. And we want answers so fast. Sometimes you just don't get them, but like your strength grows through that as your faith grows.
So I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Strength of a Few, and it's a fiction book. And the two characters, there's a scene, and the two characters are playing this game, like, that's similar to chess. And the one character, like the main hero, loses, and the guy he's playing says, "Do you think you would have won had you have made all the right decisions?" And he says, "No, just like life, you can make every right decision and still lose."
Wow.
And I don't actually think that. I don't think you can win and lose in life necessarily. But I do think that you can make all the right decisions in life and things not go your way. And there are inconveniences and challenges and twists and turns that are entirely out of your control that you just have to deal with. Even if you did all the right things, it just doesn't go the way you thought it would.
Yep.
Based on nothing that you did. And in those scenarios, I think that's the magic of God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus, and what he gives us is that we don't have to tie our inner peace, inner life, inner joy, all the fruit of the Spirit to our outside circumstances. That we can find everything we need in ourselves, no matter, or through God in ourselves, no matter what is happening on the outside. And you can cry, but still have joy and not be depressed. You can be proud of something and something work out, but not fall into pride and not base your personality on that. You can be angry about something, but not feel that loss inside of you, you know, because you know that your life, your emotions, your worth, the purpose is not tied to the the that you can't control, the anything in the outside world.
That's good.
Man, that's so good. Woo! Whoa, that is good. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of my favorite, it's good episodes ever. I think this is probably one of the most advice-filled, wisdom-packed episodes we've ever had, and it wasn't even one we planned to do, which praise God for that. What a year. Whoa, that's good. Thank you to everyone listening. It blows my mind how this podcast continues to grow year after year. 7.5 years of doing this podcast, and with a lot of people starting to podcast now, this definitely could have just got lost in the crowd, but thank you guys for choosing to listen, for choosing to grow in your faith through this podcast. It blesses me so much when I get to meet y'all and you guys hug me and tell me that you listen to the podcast every day and it gives you confidence and it's taught you about Jesus, or this one episode when this person came on and it reshaped your life. Like, I will never get over just the privilege and the honor that I get to do this and that you guys choose to listen. And so thank you for that. Next year is going to be a great year. We are already recording so many amazing episodes that I can't wait for you guys to listen to. Another year of great advice. Thanks for hanging with us. And I pray today you're encouraged by everything we talked about and you go learn to discern the voice of your own Father.